On this day in Tudor history, the 23rd of October 1538, a short, anxious letter made its way to Thomas Cromwell. It was from Thomas Goldwell, Prior of Christ Church, Canterbury, and of course it was written to the King's chief advisor at the time, Cromwell. I'm historian and author Claire Ridgway, and let me tell you more about this letter. Goldwell thanked Cromwell for his letter and, I quote, allowing the writer to keep his present lodging for life. It is but a poor thing, but nigh the church and a place he has long continued in. He added, via Cromwell's servant John Anthony, that he hoped Cromwell would also be good lord to him in matters concerning his living. And then the stark line. Goldwell said that he didn't know how to help himself without Cromwell's favour, writing that he would rather die than live if it were God's pleasure. Why the desperation? Well, because Cromwell was not only Master Secretary and the King's right-hand man, he was also Vicar General, the man steering the dissolution of the monasteries. Goldwell's monastery was in the crosshairs. By the 1530s, the decade Henry VIII broke with Rome and declared himself supreme head of the church in England, monasteries were among the greatest landowners in the realm. Many had grown very wealthy from land and the wool trade. Some abbots were accused of living comfortably while breaking their vows. That mix, wealth, power and whispered hypocrisy, made them easy targets for reformers and for a cash-hungry crown. In 1535, Henry ordered Cromwell to organise official visitations, inspections of religious houses, to gather evidence of irregularities and abuses. Some findings were real, many were not, but they provided cover for what Henry also needed: money to fund campaigns, punishment for those who opposed his supremacy, the chance to head off future opposition, and the means to buy loyalty with redistributed land. The propaganda was simple: out with corrupt freeloaders, in with godly reform. What followed was systematic. In 1536, the lesser monasteries, those with fewer than 12 members and incomes under £200, were targeted first. Their heads were pensioned off. Members were secularised or moved. Buildings were stripped for materials and lands sold. It wasn't enough, though. In 1539, the larger houses were dissolved too. Christ Church Priory in Canterbury, Goldwell's house, was an obvious prize, one of the largest Benedictine monasteries in England and Wales, and, according to the Canterbury Trust, the third richest ecclesiastical house after Westminster and Glastonbury. In 1535, its gross income was recorded as nearly £3,000, and it drew revenue from pilgrims making offerings at the shrine of St Thomas Becket. And there were complaints. After a 1535 visitation, some monks accused Prior Goldwell of chastising them for failing St Benedict's rule, while himself disobeying the king's injunctions on regulating their diet. They claimed he held 6 men under 24 in the monastery against their will, that he was avaricious while pretending poverty. Other charges said he'd taken a collect for the Bishop of Rome by name of Pope, contrary to his oath and to a law made in that behalf, and that he'd left jewels and plate off the official inventory. There were even accusations of murder. When Cromwell's agent Richard Leighton visited in October 1535, he was nearly burnt in his bed by an outbreak of fire. You can hear how these stories were meant to land. By 1538, dissolution was openly discussed, hence Goldwell's pleading letter about keeping his lodging and some livelihood. Just 2 months earlier, the shrine of St Thomas Becket in the cathedral had been smashed on Henry VIII's orders, with 26 cartloads of gold and silver hauled away to London. In 1539, some of the priory's lands were exchanged with the king. In 1540, the inevitable happened. Christ Church Priory was dissolved. The prior received a pension of £80 and lesser pensions were granted to monks not retained for the new cathedral. The consequences of the dissolution of the monasteries were profound. The landscape of England and Wales changed as great houses were stripped and left to fall. Libraries were scattered. Countless books and manuscripts were lost forever. The social fabric frayed too. Monasteries employed servants and sustained local tradesmen and artisans, work that evaporated overnight. They'd also been the welfare net, feeding the poor, nursing the sick, teaching children, caring for the elderly and the vulnerable. In the wake of dissolution came more beggars and vagrants, a rise in crime, and less care for those least able to fend for themselves. It was for many an awful turn. So that little letter of the 23rd of October 1538, a poor thing about a modest lodging, becomes a human voice in the middle of what was a revolution. A prior asking the king's minister for a corner to grow old in and a small allowance to live on, while the world he knew was dismantled around him. If you found this glimpse of the dissolution thought-provoking, then please do like this video, subscribe and ring the bell for more daily Tudor history. And see you soon. Bye bye.